What if Naruto was a Mega-Prodigy Part 1? Let's go. Naruto was born with a miracle, being blessed by the heavens as to become a warrior of peace and pride. Naruto was born son of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki. However, he was actually born 8 years earlier, at around the time that Shisui is born, which is also about 2 years before Itachi was born. So, no Tailed Beast attack or Nine-Tails attack on the Konoha, for now at least. Naruto was able to talk fluently from the age of only 3 months old, which is extraordinary, and showed extreme intellect, even as a baby. Naruto was already reading and somewhat writing from the age of 1 year old, and though he didn't read complicated books yet, slowly but surely the books became more complicated. He started to read more history books and books about shinobi and jutsus and chakra. This gave Naruto a wide knowledge of shinobi and their history when he was only 2 years old. At this point, whilst walking through the village, he saw some of the Uchiha boys training. They were on an open field, but they were still rather young, only perhaps 7 or 8 years old, but Naruto watched in awe as they threw kunai and shuriken at some trees and talked and laughed. Naruto didn't really have many friends, because everybody his age was, well, pretty stupid in his opinion. I mean, they could barely talk. But he loved watching the Uchiha boys so much that he went over to talk to them and asked if he could have a try at throwing the shuriken. They laughed in his face, not expecting him to be able to throw them, because they were too heavy. You gotta remember, Naruto's pretty much a baby. He's a small child at most. He's a 2-year-old. Still though, they handed him the shuriken, and to their surprise, he was able to hit 6 of the shuriken on a tree, out of the 8 he was handed. He first had to get a feel of how heavy they are and how to throw them, as he only saw it in his books prior, and never even touched a real shuriken before. But still, he only missed the first 2 shuriken, and the rest hit pretty accurately and close together on a tree that he was aiming at. The Uchiha boys told Naruto to leave again as they were jealous of his skill, especially because he was so much younger than them. Naruto left, slightly sad, but very happy that he was able to throw shuriken and hit them so accurately. By the way, if you're wondering, no, the boys didn't know that Naruto was son of the Hokage, because in this story, actually, Minato and Kushina, well, they didn't really tell many people that they actually even had a son. Because, since it is so much earlier in the story, Minato isn't even Hokage yet, so he's not such an influential figure, and the war is still going on. Or actually, sorry, didn't even begin yet. So neither Naruto nor Minato was very known, though some people, especially some of the stronger and more experienced shinobi and fighters, knew that Minato was definitely a force to be reckoned with, but hasn't really made a name for himself, since there was hardly a, possibility to. Anyways, now Naruto would go home and tell Kushina that, he threw kunai and shuriken for the first time. Kushina was shocked. She knew that Naruto was pretty smart and had already started reading and stuff, but throwing shuriken, and so accurately for the first time, at such a young age. She didn't even think about that Naruto wanted to already become a shinobi, or anything really. I mean, he was still her baby, her child. And even if she wanted to become a shinobi, there's no way such a small baby could already throw shuriken so accurately. Also, if you're wondering, Kushina is kind of a housewife, but not completely, since she's still employed as a shinobi, and still does missions, but not as much as Minato. However, she tells Minato immediately about Naruto throwing the shuriken, as this was big news. And Minato is pretty happy to hear it, though was also a little bit scared, as he knew that being a shinobi was not all fun and games, and he didn't want his son to get in trouble when he was older and become sad or depressed. But for now, he was happy. His son was showing such intelligence and power at such a young age. Minato now wants to train Naruto and start teaching him practical things, since he already had most of the knowledge he needed from reading and intuition. As you gotta remember, Naruto has a very high IQ in this story. He's incredibly smart, not just from reading and experience, but his intuition is incredible. Naruto learned chakra control strong enough and precise enough to walk on water in only 3 days, which is unheard of for anyone so extremely young, and with no previous teachings at all. Now, since the lessons Minato was giving him were too slow for him, and Minato didn't always have time, whilst Minato was out on a mission, not home, Naruto secretly took a Shuriken from his room. Not just one, 10 in fact. Naruto practiced with them, and after only 1 hour, he gets 10 out of 10 Shuriken landing on a tree 5 times in a row, all of them right next to each other, showing preciseness and accuracy. Because he didn't have a real target to throw at yet, so he just put one in his mind. At this point, Naruto starts to learn regular clone jutsus, which take him another 3 days to basically master it to an at least Genin level. If you're wondering, yeah, throwing Shuriken and Kunai, for Naruto at least, is much easier than controlling his chakra, though at some point he will get the chakra down too. Then he learns different kind of clone jutsus, as well as the substitution jutsu, which he saw Minato use as a joke once and a prank on Naruto, and after asking how to do it, Naruto started training it. He found it cool and thought it'd be useful at some point. At this point, Naruto desperately needs to up his Daijutsu, as his Shuriken throwing and chakra is really good for his age, but, well, his Taijutsu is definitely lacking. Naruto starts training, though, whilst it is going pretty good, and he's learning pretty fast, and becoming more powerful, he does notice that it is pretty difficult for his extremely young body, and Minato notices too. So that takes a while, and they can't go too fast on the taijutsu training yet, because it could damage Naruto's body if he started out too rough and too young at the beginning. Now, about 6 months later, Naruto has pretty good speed and punching power, which could rival about a 10 or 12-year-old boy. A normal boy, not like a Genin, but which is still very impressive. It might not sound like it, but imagine that. Naruto is not even 3 years old, and could maybe even beat up a 10-year-old. That's impressive. Over these 6 months, Naruto also learned the Shadow Clone Jutsu, and the story goes as follows. Naruto reads in a book which was about the founding of the village, and more specifically about Hashirama Senju's life. Well, in that book, he read that Hashirama had put all sorts of secret knowledge and jutsu all in one scroll, which was hidden in the leaf and protected by the Hokage personally. Now you gotta remember, at this point, Minato wasn't Hokage, Hiruzen was. So, even if he wanted to, it'd be hard for Minato to lend the scroll to Naruto, as he didn't have control over it, at least for now. Naruto still asked his father if he could borrow it. He thought about it, though, yeah, even if he wanted to, he'd have big trouble doing it, as he's not the Hokage. So you basically have to steal it and put it back before anyone realized, with the help of his speed, which was faster than anyone in the village, even though Minato is still pretty young. He was reluctant to take action, though perhaps with supervision, it could be okay for Naruto to look through the scroll. So Minato let Naruto start reading the scroll after having borrowed it from the Hokage's office. Then, after about 5 minutes, Naruto stood up. Minato asked what he was going to do, but Naruto didn't respond. Naruto started collecting chakra from his entire body and pushing it to his arms and hands, and right before putting his hands together, Minato's hands stopped him. Don't do that. That jutsu is dangerous, along with all the other jutsu in the scroll. Minato took back the scroll from Naruto, as He then thought to himself that Naruto, even though he was very smart, he was much too young to be entrusted with this kind of knowledge and power. Minato then quickly put the scroll back to its original resting place. By the way, this also placed in the late evening, so Hiruzen was no longer in the Hokage's office, so nobody was watching it at the time. It being the scroll. If you're wondering, Minato stopped Naruto from making a shadow clone, which Minato knew the hand signs for, and the reason he stopped his son to make a shadow clone is because the jutsu is very dangerous. It can greatly harm its user if done incorrectly, and Minato wasn't going to take those chances, especially when Naruto just read it for the first time and is so young. Maybe in the future, but even then it's still risky. There was no need to take such risks, especially at the beginning of Naruto's training when he was just so young. Also, I realized that Minato and Kushina would be very young at this point, technically, in canon, so I decided to make them a little bit older, nothing special, just 5 years, as I don't really want Naruto's parents to still be teenagers. I hope you realize that that's not gonna be a huge change, just putting it out there. After this night, Naruto secretly tried the Shadow Clone Jutsu and succeeded, though didn't really do much with it for now. Anyways, back to Naruto where he is 2.5 years old. He would continue training, and at this point Kushina would get pregnant again, so Naruto would become an older brother to his younger sister named Kasumi. Naruto at this point would train more and more and become incredibly strong, becoming as strong as a mid-level genin at the age of only 3 years old. He would also want to protect his sister in the future, as he knew that a war would break out soon as tensions between villages kept rising. To protect his family and especially his sister, he would have to get stronger, which gave him even more motivation to train. Now at this point, Naruto got to meet 2 Uchiha boys. 1-year-old Itachi, the son of one of Minato's close friends, Fugaku, who is also the leader of the Uchiha clan, and Shisui, who is pretty much exactly Naruto's age, now also being 3. Shisui saw how strong Naruto was already, which made him want to become more powerful too. Shisui started training his taijutsu and physical abilities right at the beginning, and whilst he didn't learn and advance as fast as Naruto, he was still incredibly powerful for his age, and his taijutsu was really good. Before they knew it, 1 month later, the Third Shinobi World War began. At the beginning of it, Minato was almost always on missions, and Kushina, whilst not as much, was also very busy. Konoha needed all of the capable shinobi they could get, especially if they were jonin and powerful ones at that. However, whilst the war was still going, it cooled down a little bit, and Kushina and Minato were able to go home more than before. As before, they would always send their 2 children to Mikoto's, as she was no longer a shinobi and could take care of the children. Anyways, it had now been about 1 year since the start of the war, and Minato had slowly but surely gotten a reputation like no other. All of his missions had perfect results, and he was fast. So fast that other shinobi got scared when they saw him, because they knew Minato... Well, if Minato was there, it was already too late to turn back, because he was just so fast, and he would catch up to them easily. And they didn't have a chance to fight him, so they had already lost when Minato arrived to the battlefield. So much so that in the future, there would even be a command telling all shinobi to flee the scene and flee the battlefield as soon as Minato, who is now known as the Yellow Flash of Konoha, arrived. He was called that because he was so fast, the only thing that you got to see before he was behind you, or perhaps before you were even dead, or with a kunai in your chest, was his yellow hair flashing in front of you. Minato often came up behind his victims, pulled the kunai out, and, well, you know. Anyways, back to Naruto, our main character. Naruto is currently hanging out with Shisui, doing a contest of who could do the most push-ups. Minato was watching and then walked out from behind the tree that he was hiding from. He went to Naruto and asked him to speak one-on-one. They went around the corner and then Minato asked in a serious face, "Naruto, do you want to go to the academy?" The academy? Sure, why not? That sounds like fun. Naruto was incredibly strong, and he could definitely earn his right to go to the academy, even though he was very, very young. And before having even talked to Naruto, Minato asked Hiruzen if it would be okay. Hiruzen, of course, knew, at least to some extent, that Naruto was very smart and powerful too. And she allowed it. And with Naruto's agreement, after 1 month of waiting, Naruto would finally get to go for his first day of academy life as a real student. And with that, I'm going to leave off the episode. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!